Okay, so just some more thoughts today and thinking about, you know, the results of propaganda and, if we're going to be particular to a topic of that's in conversation right now within Canada, and it's medically assisted dying for people that have mental illnesses as a means of, doing away with the problem on the burden on the healthcare system. And of course, I'm over dramatizing when trying to speak as if I'm highbrow, very well educated. Yes, don't look at me. I'm the expert. Believe me, I don't have any dark triad personality traits. I'm a man of wisdom. You see, don't always believe the hype. And as a talking head, don't always believe me either, right? Go and do your research. You got to know the roots of all this from root to fruit, how rotten this can all be. Uh, when I'm talking about suicidal people and addicts, and again, having life experiences around these people and having such a diverse, um, life, diverse experience with people who get involved with aviation because aviation is international, right? It's one of the links of logistics, like how the internet is for communication, shipping, and aviation. Any other part of transport, that is the logistical system, is what connects us all together. It's what makes the world go round, very much so. Um, but when people don't have resources and they don't have support through a family, or they don't have education, especially for the arts, if they don't have a means of expressing themselves, they don't have the words to put into a speech, or they don't have a pathology, they don't have a path, they don't have a narrative, they don't have an internal identity, they don't have any correlation or relation to their own histories, eaten from the inside out, basically. And that's what an addiction does to people. Is that once the chemical systems in the body have been hijacked, and then the feedback loop has been established, which is then has to do with triggering and dog whistles, right? Instantaneous shock and awe, right? Like that's the whole shock doctrine thing. Is that the high stimulation and stress, which is then a problem on the cardiovascular system. Excuse me, got an itchy beard. Okay, like, yeah, crazy eyes. Yeah, look for the whites of the eyes. Okay, that's another thing. Is someone who's got bags under their eyes, and it's like this, just under. They're ready to unload on you, but it's like this, and like that. That's psychopath. You're like, oh yeah, yeah, I'm gonna freaking hurt you, yeah, something like that. And I know something like that is going to be taken out of context in this video, so screw you, frankly. Um, but some people, and again, okay, so this has to do with being a lifeguard or a first responder, and mental first aid, and is if you're going to talk somebody off the ledge. And I've actually done this. I did this for somebody else recently, and I know he's forever thankful for my words. And that's why you don't panic in these situations, because if you get into something, well, like what happened with my dog, you just have to deal with it. You have to be trained. You have to know what's going on. You don't just tread on the thin ice without having some mental preparation and some education. So going about this, what I'm going to cite is an example of a movie in the media that's really good, that I thoroughly enjoyed, and it's quite immersive, because I have an interest in the mountains, and having been in the Okanagan Valley, and lived there twice now, for an extended period of time, and hiked the mountains by myself. Okay, by myself, without any like kind of protection or deterrents for bears and cougars and stuff like that. You really got to make some noise to make sure that the wildlife knows that you're there, so you don't run into any kind of situation like that. And that's what I done. And so as far as bears are concerned, a bear, when it's stressed out, will want to attack you, okay, especially a mama bear, for a good reason. And the same psychology exists in people whom are suicidal, right? They don't want to be saved. That's the whole point of why they're in that dire situation in the first place, why they're leaning over the edge, is because they don't see a way out of the addiction. They don't see a way out of the feedback loop, and then they get into the self-harm, because they the betrayal of the society or the system or the family, and their inability or unwillingness to deal with their problems. And so most of the time, going across the tracks is a cry for help, but going with the tracks, don't go there. Okay, it's a maladaptive coping mechanism. You don't go there. It just causes more harm to everybody else around you, and it ain't worth it. It ain't. You got to have a respectful relationship with poison. But the country at large, if I'm going to get into more detail, especially after the Liberal government, okay, I'm going to go right at them for this, with the MAID and the lack of mental health support, and the lack of, support for slowing down the economy so that we don't commit, cultural and nationalized suicide, right? This becomes a pathological thing, because the belief system is that we are the problem on this planet, but the problem can be solved, as an engineer speaking here, the problem can be solved with technology. Oh my goodness. But anyways, so back to the point of the matter. Infinite Storm is the movie. And let's see, we'll read. This is from the Boston.com, so the entertainment section. And this is by Kevin Slane. I'm going to read an excerpt here. Starting from the beginning, this was published on March 8th, 2022. In October 2010, Pam Bales set out on a familiar path to the top of Mount Washington. On the way up, the experienced hiker determined that the fast-approaching blizzard had made ascension too dangerous and began to turn back. She then saw a lone set of footprints. It was clear these tracks hadn't been made by sturdy hiking boots, but by sneakers, Bales wrote in an article for Backpacker magazine. Street shoes in this weather? I knew someone was in trouble. That's the start of a true story that serves as the basis for Infinite Storm, a movie starring Naomi Watts that's coming to theaters in March, so obviously retroactive here. With a screenplay adapted by Ty Gangay's Je ne comprends tabarnak. Comment vous dites ça? Goodness. I'm thinking in another language. About Bales, Infinite Storm recounts her harrowing rescue of Paul, an ill-prepared hypothermic man she found amid swirling snow and howling winds on what often referred to as the most dangerous small mountain in the world. Even as Paul begins to lose touch with reality and occasionally consciousness, Bale is determined to get both of them down the mountain safely. So yeah, again, within these states, within these depressive and anxious and hyperactive states of consciousness, which has to do again with the adrenals. Being an amateur doctor, I can only communicate as much as I know about this stuff. With the endocrine system and the hormones and whatnot. I don't have intimate details about this. That's somebody else's game, right? Let somebody else speak for that. They dedicated their lives for it, and good for them. All right, so going on with this. That's the end of that article. So in the movie, they make it look like he was suicidal, because you don't go up a mountain like Mount Washington without some preparation. As the teachings go with survival and survival first aid, you have to be prepared for the worst outcome. And hope for the best, be prepared for the worst is the terminology, and the means by which you remember this stuff. Because your head is the most valuable thing in stressful situations. But if you're if you're in that panic state, most of the time people are not thinking about it. They're just going back to their animal brains, right? Their brain stem. It's an automatic behavior. It's just survival at all costs, and they'll trample people. Like say, what Black Fridays, you see videos of that. And it's just, mind-blowing how easy it is for, mass psychosis to be communicated. All it takes is just one person to panic, right? Like, that's it. It's over. And then all of a sudden we have this degradation of the social trust. And then, it, just like a beaver, like here, there goes the tree. That's it. No more forest. And the thing is that with suicidal people, especially if they, if they're on a specific drug, right? This usually the two of them go hand in hand usually, addiction and suicidal tendencies, because they're just looking for a way out. They're looking for an escapism, especially if they're doing depressives like ketamine, and harder psychedelics, and heroin or opioids, not specifically like Oxycontin or anything like that. That's they were sold into that basically. The substance is so addictive, but they can't. They're unable to get off of it, and then they get onto something else. So that's like the methadone thing. Details being details. Go figure it out for yourself, please. And you have to stage an intervention. Otherwise, nothing happens. They'll continue about the same cycle over and over and over again, and then they end up in the court system, and then they end up in drug rehab, and then it keeps going over in the same cycle. The BoJack Horseman thing, which is another good example of of mental health conditions, and it's a very current thing. That pit of despair that you get thrown into because your family wasn't all that together. Let's put it like that. The stresses and so forth of maladaptive and toxic traits of the parents. Not specifically toxic masculinity, but there's also toxic femininity, as I said in other videos, about citing the female chauvinist pig and arrogance, and then this way that you find the smartest person in the room is the one that's the most quiet, right? The one you find the stupidest person in the room is the one that says, I know what to do. Don't tell me what to do. I know what to do. Right? And they refuse to hear anything from anybody else. And then that just completely shuts down any kind of discourse or communication that arrives at a deductive reasoning. Let's put it like that. Following the chain of evidence or the behaviors. And, that's why you throw somebody, I'm going to go back to the lifeguard thing, because it's a good example and I like it. It's very simple to understand. You throw someone, Baywatch, fucking friggin' Baywatch, okay? You throw someone a life preserver, and then you pull them in, especially if it's if there's an undertow or something along those lines, and if you can't tell where the current is, you don't jump in. Unfortunately, you want to jump in and save the person, but you shouldn't do it at the cost of your own life. And that's valor and courage in itself, right? Putting your own life on the line on a daily basis in order to do that. But you better be super fit and mentally prepared for such an outcome. The SEALs and whatnot, other special forces, or like the special boat squadrons, rescue divers, underwater welders and stuff like that. They go through this kind of training. Pilots, Navy pilots, astronauts, in a submersion, right? And holding your breath for a continuous amount of time, like a free diver, up to a minute 20 seconds. Because it can take that long for you to, say in an instance where you got to break the glass and your car goes into the water, right? The whole Mythbusters thing, right? You if you don't have something to strike the window out, good luck, buddy. Yeah, and as I said, you have to force your way with them. They don't want to change their behavior because their behavior is dictated by a substance, by an addiction. And even little things like smoking cigarettes and the nicotine, uh, caffeine, in abusive quantities will do the same. Will give you the same result, because it's a feedback loop. The same with the dopamine that is used in behavioral modification for consumerism, and also to keep people involved with entertainment. You know, which makes slaves of us all. That's my point. Is that when you're going to put this into a conclusion, when you get to the top of the mountain, you realize that you got to come back down again. So you better be prepared to do that. You don't just recklessly abandon in suicidal tendency. You might have to get down on all fours and do the catwalk down Carrot Mountain. That's that.